Let me take the Reform Party first. That they have been donated £7 million from overseas for Reform UK from billionaires overseas. They are in danger of becoming the fully fledged subsidiary of overseas billionaire money. That is the party, not Farage himself. But then it seems that Mr. Farage himself has been gifted £5 million. That is an extraordinary sum of money. And there seemed to be a range of explanations for it. So there's an unclear expectation, and he says it is nobody's business. But in or out of Parliament, he is a public figure aiming for the highest position in our land. And we need to know what obligations he may have and to whom. And that is true of every politician, and it is true of him as well. But the other point I'd make about this is rather more personal to people. Many people have a salary after tax, and after national insurance contributions of no more than £20,000 a year.
In the UK.
That, in a working life of 50 years, from 16 to 67, is £1 million. Nigel Farage has just been gifted a sum that is equivalent to the total amount earned in 5 working lives for these people. And he seems to think it is entirely a personal matter, and it's an insult for everybody else to look at that. Well, I'm afraid I don't agree. If he were not seeking political office, maybe I would agree. But it is sophistry to say, well, I wasn't actually at the time. The fact is, he has £5 million. If I were given £5 million, I think I would feel a little obligated to the donor.
You see, this is absolutely powerful hearing John Major break this down, because this alludes to what I think is one of the biggest problems with politics, and that's there's no transparency. Like, nobody knows what's really going on. Like, when you vote for whoever you vote for, you're voting for the best foot forward that they were able to show. You're voting for their marketing methodology. You're not voting for their humanity. You don't actually know what their humanity is. 9 times out of 10, there are stories brushed under the carpet. You know, we're now hearing stuff about people like Tony Blair, which we didn't hear back in the day when he was running for office. And this is the interesting thing about politics. It doesn't matter where you are in your journey of life, whether you're someone who's voting for the first time, you've just turned of legal age to vote, or whether you're someone who's been voting for a number of years, for decades, and you're still questioning why do you even vote. The reality is politics always has this interesting, maybe even we can say greasy, sleazy element to it. And the real question we have to start to ask ourselves is, what can we do about it? You know, I know this is why a lot of people, when they build an audience, when they build a platform, they decide to go into things like politics, because they realize they can't trust the people they thought they could trust. But the reality is, what can you do about it? Because this is a general staple in the issue or in the area of politics, and it consistently becomes an issue. Let's see what else they're going to say before we wrap up.
It's not having a great dent on him yet, is it?
I don't know. It's only just really becoming an issue. And it does seem to be becoming an issue, and people aren't talking about it because it's under investigation. And the investigation, of course, will tell us whether it actually fits with the rules. It won't tell us whether it is morally right for someone who is seeking to be in high office in our politics to accept such an extraordinary gift from somebody who is not even a British citizen. That is a question of personal morality that Mr. Farage would sort out with himself and justify to other people.
I think John Major's bringing up a really powerful point here, where he talks about the investigation is going to tell us whether it's accurately right, but it's not going to tell us whether it's morally right. And I think, if I'm going to be totally transparent, that's a question we have to answer as constituents of the UK. We have to answer those questions. We have to ask ourselves, is it morally right for an elected official or an official who desires to be elected to be able to receive large, substantial amounts of resource or money from offshore donors, from people that are not based in the UK, not UK nationals, etc., etc. Because the real question behind that is, what's their intention? The people that are funding or fueling these agendas, what is their intention? And the reality is, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to know, because you might not be privy to these parties. You might not be someone who's in these social echelons in order to understand what they're actually doing. But I'm of the mind that the problem here is much bigger, right? The problem that I see here is the fact that there's no true democratization in politics. I've often said, especially when talking to close friends, we live in a two-party society. And people say to me, oh, but Samuel, you've also got the Green Party and you've got the Liberal Democrats. And the reality is, I ask very often, when was the last time you saw any of them in power? Now, we see multiple parties running, both in a local level and also in the higher levels. But the reality is, when do we ever see a party getting elected besides Conservative or Labour? And look, this is not me attempting to say that we need reform. This is not me attempting to say that we need any other party. This is me attempting to say that the UK very often ends up falling on one or two particular cards. And the reality is, do we even know what Labour really stands for anymore? Do we even really know what the Conservative Party really stands for anymore? And, you know, my strongest belief is that we don't. And the reason we don't is because politics has gotten so far from what it has supposed to have been used for, that now we're just literally going from what some people might call bad to worst, or effectively we're just going from party to party. You know, it's Conservative for 2 terms, and then we get fed up with the things they're putting in place, so we switch to Labour for a term or 2, and then we get fed up. And that looks more so, if you look at the history of the UK over the last 20 years, that looks more so like the way people are voting. People aren't voting for character anymore. People aren't voting for integrity anymore. People aren't voting for policies and actually true aligned parties anymore. People are voting because they're feeling the pain of the last people that were actually in party. And I don't know, like, you let me know in the comments what you think. Are we in a two-party society in the UK? Are we actually given more opportunities than the actual two parties? Or is it all just a bit of a facade in the UK politics scene? I'm really interested in knowing what you think. But more importantly, like, I guess another question we got to ask ourselves is, how do we fix this? Like, if it's true that we are in a two-party society, then how do you fix this? How do we get to a place where the elected officials actually become people that are pushing forward the agenda of the people rather than just their own agendas? In the case of what John Major's bringing up about Farage, apparently he's receiving high-level donations from individuals who have their own intentions or their own agendas to be promoting him or to be funding him and fueling him, right? So how do we fix this stuff? How do we shift the narrative? Is it about everybody choosing to vote for someone who's kind of on the fringes and saying, yes, we're going to have some real change because we've voted this completely, outlier character in? Or is it more so about us looking at something different in order to create the change? You know, I'm a very big believer in, if it's going to be, it's up to me. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you got to run for to be elected, but that does mean you have to start thinking about solutions. What is the solution that's going to work for you? What's the solution that's going to work for your family? What's the solution that, if you're a praying person, when you're praying, you're hearing in your heart, you're hearing in your mind, that you should be operating with? Because if you're not mindful of that, then just like many, or if I be so bold, just like the majority, the overwhelming majority of people, you're going to be left to the walls, as it were. You're going to be left in the hands of those who don't have your best interests at heart. And what do you do then? Now it's all about prevention, when actually, well, then it all becomes about cure, when actually it should be about prevention. And, we've all heard the adage, prevention is better than cure. So do something now, right? But in order for us to do something now, we first have to discover what we can do now. So I'm going to encourage you in this video, take the opportunity, take some time out, think about it. I know for a lot of people, politics is one of those topics which they don't even want to think about. And I submit to you that that's engineered, all right? It's totally engineered, because for so many years they said there's 2 things you never talk about: religion and politics. And that whole mantra was just to get our mindsets out of understanding how important these two things are to our everyday life, how important these things are to your children, how important these things will be to your children's children. So if you want to be someone who at least invested or planted a seed in today's society, in today's generation, that you know your children or your children's children are going to need, then now's the time. Take a day or two, get a bit read up, get a bit of an understanding. Maybe talk to your friend who knows the most about politics and just ask them, like, why do you vote what you vote, and who will you be voting for next and why? Just start to broaden your understanding, broaden your expansion so you can put yourself in a better position as it pertains to politics. Look, I'm going to put my hands up and say, I am one of the first to say I do not know as much as I think I should know about politics. But one thing I do know is we can learn to know more. So if that being said, Sammy I Can Win, signing out. Good day. God bless. And as I usually say, small keys open up big doors. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. Let's go.